Long before today's election, Massachusetts' political reputation has been pretty well established. The conventional wisdom is that we're a solid blue state. But in certain areas, Massachusetts politics are shifting, with some moving farther to the left and others to the right. Adam Reilly has more from the two towns that have changed the most.
If you've never heard of Monroe, Massachusetts, you're not alone. The town, tucked right next to the Vermont border, is tiny, with about 120 residents.
Really, the town's empty.
But Alice Hodling says when she and her husband moved to town in 1972, Monroe was different.
He got a job down the Deerfield Specialty Papers, and he was down there for 16 and a half years. He made good money down the mill.
When the mill closed, Hodling says Monroe changed.
Most of the people in town left.
So why did we go to Monroe? Because this town has shifted more from voting Democratic to voting Republican than any other community in Massachusetts. In 2008, Barack Obama won Monroe by 36 points. But in 2016, Donald Trump eked out a 2-point victory.
A 38-point shift towards Trump from Obama.
Brent Benson writes the blog Mass Numbers. He says Monroe fits a bigger pattern he's identified statewide.
So the difference between the 2016 and 2008 number is highly correlated with the difference between education levels between the towns.
With lower education levels linked to greater support for Trump. In Monroe, just 18% of residents have college degrees. Also driving redward shifts around the state, he says, whiteness with less diversity also linked to a higher Trump vote. The opposite dynamic is at work inside 495, with more education and diversity making communities bluer. Case in point, Dover, which had the second biggest Democratic shift in the state, right after neighboring Sherburne.
I'm Carol Lisbon. I'm co-chair of the Dover Democratic Town Committee, along with Elaine Rosenberg.
For decades, Lisbon and Rosenberg say Dover's identity has revolved around its schools.
The things that are important are education and what goes along with that.
Am I right that Dover Sherburne High School is known as routinely one of the very best public schools in Massachusetts?
It is the top one or two.
The adults in Dover are well educated too. 85% have college degrees, tops in the state. And while the town is 84% white, Lisbon and Rosenberg say it's not nearly as homogenous as it used to be.
That has changed significantly.
In 2008, Dover voted narrowly for Obama. But 8 years later, the town backed Hillary Clinton over Trump by a whopping 29 points.
People were literally changing their enrollment from unenrolled to Democrats.
Whether these shifts will continue could depend on whether Trump's reinvention of republicanism outlasts his presidency. But right now, Dover and Monroe reflect a bigger reality about Massachusetts. We're not a blue state as much as we are two states headed in opposite political directions. Adam Reilly, WGBH News.
If you want a closer look at that map, we've linked to it online in Adam's story. You can find that at greaterboston.org.